Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story about an encounter at a gas station that took an unexpected turn filled with bold demands, tense moments, and a surprising twist at the end. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. Man asks me, 26-year-old female, to buy him a tank of gas. This happened about a week ago, but in the midst of my job search, I haven't had time to write it out until now. To give you backstory, I've been unemployed for the last 5 to 6 months by choice. I finished up school and decided to take some time off to travel and have been home since the beginning of December looking for work. I'd saved up for the 3 months of travel plus 2 months expenses I would accrue over that time. I was heading home from a job interview about a 30-minute drive away when I pulled into the gas station to fill up. A guy in a rundown Pontiac Sunfire pulls in behind me with a woman in the passenger seat. He approaches me. Dude, hey, any chance you have any change? My tank's empty and I don't have any cash. Me, surprised on the balls of this guy. Sorry, no, I don't think so. I don't normally carry change. Dude, oh, okay then. Walks away. A minute or so passes and he comes back. Dude, are you sure you don't have any change? I'm really stuck here. Me, I'm sorry, but like I said, I don't have anything. Dude, visibly annoyed. Can you at least check? I look at him, just as annoyed as he's looking at me. I look inside my pockets and look in my car for 10 seconds. Me, sorry, I don't have anything. Dude, well, I know you got money, motions his finger up and down at my outfit as I'm clearly dressed for an interview, and I really need this. Would you mind buying some gas for me? You know, on your credit card? Me, I'm sorry, buddy, but I just came from a job interview. I've been unemployed for the last 5 months. I don't have much myself. I can't help you. Dude, come on. A tank is only $40. Me, very annoyed at this point. I can't buy you a tank of gas. I just told you. Like I've said, I can't help you. I turn away, back to pumping. Dude stands there for a few seconds, clearly fuming. He gets back in his car and speeds away dangerously fast and a bit too close to my car. As he's driving away, he yells at me, Dude, hope when you're down in the dumps like me, someone effing leaves you pounding rocks, B. I just laughed in shock at what had just happened. The 2 gas attendants, also in shock of what they just heard, come to check what happened. When I told them, they laughed with me. So there's my CB story. This has been a bit of a fun one to tell family and friends. Now I've written it out for the Reddit community. P.S. I got the job. I start in 2 weeks. I like how he assumes you've got lots of cash because you're dressed up, like no rich person walks out the door in their fanciest clothes. And our second story. Petty retail compliance. It's been about 5 years that I've worked at this gas station food mart, and the only other clerk who's worked there longer than I is an old man from the old country. We'll Americanize his name to Jacob. Jacob chooses to work the graveyard shift, and I was hired to work overnights 2 nights a week so he could have some days off. My other 3 days, I worked the mid-shift and would turn over the register to Jacob when he'd come in at 10 p.m. In the beginning, Jacob and I would chat a bit before I would go, which meant mostly listening to Jacob complain about how he does so much and works so much harder than everyone else. I can understand that since on the graveyard shift there were fewer customers, so the night clerk had to do more cleanup and maintenance around the store. But I really think Jacob liked working alone where he could be his own boss. About 2 years ago, the store got a new manager who happened to be a very pretty but smart young lady. She did a good job and treated everyone fairly, so if inventory came up short, she'd calmly explain to each person that we had to be more careful with our counts. Jacob didn't take to being managed by a woman very well, and when we got tips for better performance, he'd grumble about that a lot. He eventually went to the male owner and complained that he worked so hard that he shouldn't have to be treated like that. In compromise, the owner said that Jacob had to listen to the manager, but a few jobs would be moved to earlier shifts. Mine, which was how I got the enviable task of emptying 6 big cans of gas station garbage. So, as an old man, he wouldn't have to work as hard. Jacob took to bragging that he knew everything about how the store was run because he talked to the owner, and the manager was tricky, but he knew what she was up to. With more stuff for me to do during the day, I'd sometimes not clock out right at 10 p.m., but a few minutes after, which at first Jacob didn't seem to care about. Then about 9 months ago, Jacob contracted COVID and was out for almost 3 months. Well, first he said that he'd had an eye injury, then he said he'd had a stroke, and lastly he said that he'd had COVID. In the time period that Jacob had been gone, the store had also had an equipment upgrade, and we had a newer generation register that we'd all trained on. When Jacob returned, his report numbers tanked because he refused nothing but the minimum instruction from the manager. Instead, he'd make me stay even later, asking me how to input transactions in the register, but insisted that he still knew everything. One day, Jacob was so certain that the manager was targeting him with training just because she was racist that he went straight to the owner and threatened to quit. Note, the owner and Jacob were from the same country. At this point, Jacob had his duties slashed, been given excessive time off, and now he was making the store lose money? The owner's answer to his threat was, "Okay, tell the manager when your last day will be and stop calling me." Well, naturally, Jacob was just bluffing and didn't leave the job, but he had to have yet another concession to satisfy his control issues, so he demanded that I be clocked out in my shift not a minute later than 10 p.m. He even started coming in a few minutes early and grumbling while putting away my stool, stapler, and pens before I was even done with them, like he was trying to bum rush me out the door. Okay, if that's the way he wanted it. Now I'm ready to go at least 10 minutes early, and I just wait for him to show up, then immediately clock out. We don't talk or chat at all anymore, unless Jacob tries to stop me and ask a question about how to do a function on the register. I'm off, I'll answer. Besides, you know everything. And our last story. It's hard to believe, even for me. Here's a story that you couldn't make up even if you tried. So picture this. I'm working as a volunteer in Africa, enjoying life, helping people, and all that. Then I get the news. My cousin John, may he rest in peace, has passed away. But John wasn't just any person, he was a true eccentric. He left me a huge plot of land, 50 hectares with 2 farms. Yeah, some people inherit money, and I get land. Great, I thought. I'll start a new life as a farmer. I come home looking forward to raising cows and growing carrots. And what do I see? On my land, there's already a brand new HOA village built by a construction company owned by Catherine, the wife of the president of the neighboring HOA. Quite a twist, right? My jaw dropped like I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when the contestant answers the $1 million question. Well, I thought I'll go talk to Catherine and sort this out. I walk into her luxurious office that looks like it was stolen from Carte Blanche or some other rich show. You know, the kind of office where the toilet costs more than my car? I say to her, "Catherine, this is my land. I inherited it from John. You had no right to build anything here." Trying not to explode with anger, because if this were a cartoon, I'd already look like a red-faced emoji. And Catherine looks at me and says, "Oh, Victor, you're so naive. This land is ours now, and we've done a lot of good here. You won't be able to prove anything." And her face is like she just won the lottery. She said she'd prepared a compensation for me of $1 million for my troubles, so I should take it and get far away by the end of the day. Well, my heart was boiling with rage. I knew I wouldn't let this go. I told her to shove that money up her old rear. I had an old friend of my father's who was a private detective, and I called him right away for help. He also advised me to hire a good lawyer immediately and gave me some numbers. He said since my father was a good friend, he'd start investigating in the morning. A week later, he found something. To start, Catherine knew about my inheritance even before I did. Apparently, she had people everywhere, including notaries and lawyers. She was a real shark in this business and knew that a 50-hectare plot of land was a real treasure, so she decided not to waste time and devised a whole scheme. First, Catherine forged ownership documents. She hired a team of professional forgers who faked my cousin John's signature and made a fake will, supposedly transferring the land to her. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Next, Catherine used her connections in the local administration. She knew the right people who, for a small bribe, were willing to overlook some discrepancies in the documents. Eventually, Catherine got all the necessary permits and registration documents confirming her ownership of the land. To make everything look as legal as possible, Catherine organized public hearings attended only by her people. They approved the project for the new HOA village on my land. It was quite a show, especially since I was on the other side of the planet in a place without any communication or electricity. But the detective found out that besides her paid friends, Catherine had a lot of enemies who couldn't stand her and were just waiting for such a moment. Hiring a lawyer was the next step. I found a real pro who knew how to handle such cases. He thoroughly examined all the materials and devised a plan to take the case to court and prove the fraud. The courtroom was full. My lawyer, Mr. Smith, sat next to me, confidently smiling. Catherine, opposite, looked tense, sitting next to her lawyer, Mr. Grayson. I'll summarize briefly. Judge, let's begin. Victor, do you have an opening statement? Mr. Smith. Your Honor, we will prove that Victor's land was illegally taken using forged documents and corruption. Judge, defense attorney? Mr. Grayson, my client acted within the law. All documents are legal. Mr. Smith presents documents. Here are the original documents with John's signature and the forged ones used by Catherine. Notice the differences? Judge, the signatures are clearly different. Call the witnesses. Mr. Jenkins, a former employee of Catherine's company, I saw documents being forged and officials being bribed. Mr. Smith plays a recording where Catherine arranges a bribe. Judge, Catherine, what do you say? Catherine, that's not my voice. Mr. Grayson demands a recording expert, but the judge continues the hearing. Officials confirm the bribes. The defense tries to present documents which are recognized as fake. Judge, the deal was illegal. The land returns to Victor. Catherine must pay compensation of $12 million. The courtroom applauds. I felt relieved. It was a victory. She was saved only because the houses hadn't been sold to residents yet. Catherine owned a small solar power plant nearby, which according to the prenuptial agreement, belonged only to her. After the court, I learned that Catherine's husband immediately filed for divorce with property division to distance himself from all this. I'm not sure what's next, but I think everything will be fine. Catherine faces another trial against the city for bribery and real estate fraud. I think she'll go to jail for a long time. Yeah, that's something. Yes. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.